Welcome to the Aledo Bearcats Coaches Show Podcast, a presentation of Real Country 92.1 Hank FM and NTXVarsitySports.com. Live from Parker County Brewing Company in Willow Park. The Aledo Bearcats Coaches Show Podcast is brought to you by H5 Sports Barn in Aledo and Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth. And now, here's the voice of the Bearcats, Kevin Lonnquist.
Tubbs, little play action, roll to the right, wants to throw. Man is wide open. That's Bain Martin who makes the catch, goes into the end zone. Touchdown, Aledo Bearcats. 32 yards from Lincoln Tubbs to Bain Martin, and the Bearcats are 2 for 2 possessing the football tonight. They lead 13-0. Another offensive onslaught by the Bearcats in their final regular season game last Thursday night up in Denton. And we welcome you to the Aledo Coaches Show Podcast. I'm Kevin Lonnquist, and we are at Parker County Brewing Company off of Ranch House Road. Just make your first left when you go past the I-20 overpass. We will bring you every podcast from this location throughout the 2025-26 school year. This time we are indoors. Been outdoors the last couple of weeks. A little chilly this time, so we're going to go back inside until things start to warm up. Hopefully we'll be outside next week. As always, we want to thank our two main sponsors between H5 Sports Barn and Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth. We continue to appreciate their support of the podcast and Aledo Athletics. Number one, Aledo, now 10-0, following its 77-0 blanking of Denton this past Thursday at the C.H. Collins Complex. Third straight week for this team that it has hit 70 or more points. That's an average of 74 points in those three games as the playoffs begin this week. With the Denton win, the Bearcats finished the District 3 5A season at 8-0. The national record district winning streak stops at 135, a streak that dates back to 2007, and that streak carries forward into 2026 when Aledo likely makes the jump to Class 6A. For the 30th consecutive season, Aledo is pursuing a 13th state championship for at least this year. The first appearance was back in 1996. Bearcats will take on the Saginaw Rough Riders, the fourth seed out of District 4 5A, in the 5A Division I Region I opening round. Saginaw is under new leadership in Mike DeWitt. And it's a 7 o'clock kickoff at 10 Buchanan Stadium. That's on Thursday. Now it's the final home game at the Buck this year as opposed to what it was 2 weeks ago. As always, 92.1 Hank FM has the call for you. Pre-game show starts at 6:30, then the kickoff is at 7 with yours truly, Kyle Hicks, Mercedes Meyer, and the Deacon. We have a special 3-segment show for you tonight. We'll start with Aledo head coach Robby Jones, quickly review Denton and look ahead to Saginaw. Then we'll be joined by senior left guard Kruger Summers and junior linebacker Cole Cox. Finally, the basketball season is starting. Girls just began last week. The boys are getting started next week. We'll be joined by girls coach Donny and new boys coach Drew Baker. One programming note, we're going to be celebrating the volleyball and cross-country team's fantastic seasons on our November 24th podcast. Cross-country has finished its season. The good news is that volleyball is still playing. More about that later. As we turn our attention now to Coach Jones and 17th regular season that this program has ended at 10-0. And if you were to sum up how things started in the opener in late August against Denton Guyer through facing Denton High last Thursday, what would be your analysis of your team?
Hey, we've gotten a lot better since the first week of the year. We were pretty good defensively coming in the football season, but here recently, in the last 3-4 weeks, we've seen the offense really take off. So we've become a complete team to where we can outscore people as well as stop them. Whereas at the beginning of the year, we were relying on our defense to stop people. Yeah,
and I would think too, just the way we've talked about this throughout the last few weeks of how this offense has come alive here. But that's probably the greatest transformation. The defense has kind of been this way all season long, but the way your offense has kind of turned the dial, if you will, starting from off the bye week against Richland and then moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, that's been the biggest difference in our team, is how much production we've been getting out of the offense. One of the things is in the passing game, that's where we were kind of lacking, early on. And in the Denton High game, we threw for 422 yards, which broke a school record for most passing yards in a game. It was 420, which was, if I remember correctly, it was a by-district game against Fort Worth Dunbar back in 2011.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
Yeah, it's been a while. In that game, they basically were stacking the box and trying to take Jonathan Gray away from us in that game. So we had to throw the football, and we had the guys that could do it. And so we kind of set that record, I think, if my memory correct.
Yeah, I think you're right, because I was actually looking at that chart earlier this afternoon. Okay, One more district winning streak question, then I'm going to stop talking about it until next year. Okay, so the district winning streak finishes for now at 135. That carries over into what should be Class 6A next year. I know you as the staff pay little attention to it, so do your players, but what was the thing that the staff did during the run, and this is going even back to when it started in 2007, to recognize it, but to understand that it didn't mean anything when you all played on Friday night?
Yeah, I mean, we never really talked about it. You know, we're in the mode of winning the game at hand, and that's always been our, deal. Is, whatever game's in front of us, that's the one we're concerned with. We're not concerned with how many games we won in the past. It's, hey, we got to win this one because that's, what our livelihood is. Win now. People forget real quickly how many games you've won, when you lose a few. So, our deal is, win every game that we possibly can, and that's what we're focused on, and that's what we're focused on this week. We're focused heavily on Saginaw. What we've done in the first 10 games doesn't matter. We got to go out and we got to perform against Saginaw this week. Kyle
Hicks and I were discussing on the pregame show how the second half of the Denton-Ryan game may have been a turning point to this season. You were winning, but you weren't doing things as evenly as you would have wanted to, as we talked about a few moments ago. The bye and the emergence of the passing game notwithstanding, but were obviously critical. But it just seemed like that come from behind win up at the Collins complex did a lot for the mindset of your team. What can you speak to about that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm tired of talking about that game, honestly. But, we're looking at possibly playing those guys again later. But, yeah, I mean, it was kind of a turning point in the season as far as getting the offense rolling because you saw that, after that second half that we had against them, then after that game, that's when the offense started really rolling a little bit. So, yeah, I mean, that you can point to that, but at the same time, we were having some success in the first half offensively. We just were killing ourselves with penalties.
Right? I remember
the penalties were just killing us.
Right.
And then we had to kind of change gears. We saw towards the end of the half that the quarterback run game could be something that we could exploit in the second half, and so that's why we kind of changed gears there.
And I only bring it up just because when a team looks one way throughout the course of a season, then you see how it looks differently. There's kind of like that line of demarcation there, and that's kind of why I was even bringing that up.
No,
I know what you're meaning there, but you know what I'm saying. It's just kind of like how that mindset, because of the way your kids rallied to win that game, that was so important for them too. As we speak of Denton, let's take a look at the Denton game last week. Again, 77-0. We talked about a few moments ago the school record, 422 passing yards. And you mentioned why Dunbar was doing this, because they were trying to stop Jonathan Gray. But if you think about it, the most impressive thing is you had a lot of good receivers and a lot of good quarterbacks to come through here. And the fact that it stood for 420 yards against Dunbar, it stood for 14 years before it was passed last week. Does that even kind of surprise you?
Yeah, it kind of does, because we've had some big games throwing the football. We've had some, really good quarterbacks and really good receivers and combinations, and that record stood for a long time. But, yeah, I mean, it was a good night for our passing game that year. That was Matt Bishop, doing all that. And we just – for whatever reason, hadn't had as big a game, and it might be because we pulled the dogs off a little bit, and the running, it might have been me, because I liked running the football,
right?
And I was the running backs coach, so I was going to make sure that my guys got the carries. So, maybe that was the deal. I don't know.
By the way, we should tell listeners that the top 12 passing performances in program history range from 313 yards against Southwest in 2013. To this one. Now, remind me who the offensive coordinator was during all that stretch. I kind of know the guy, but
I mean, he's a bald guy that runs around on the sidelines.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about getting back to this offense, because it's been 3 games, all since the bye, where you've scored every time you've touched the ball in the first half, except for one time against Azle. That's beyond being locked in, which is, I don't even think, even like the 2013 team or maybe even the 2023 team, I can't remember a sequence where that happened. But what did you see from your team when it comes to like just taking care of details and just being diligent about things like that?
I mean, it all starts at practice. We've seen practice pick up a little bit here since, I would guess you would have to go back to the Denton-Ryan game and say, hey, after that.
I didn't bring that up, by the way.
You didn't. The coaches, have made a point that, hey, we're going to make sure that we're practicing harder. And so I think that has carried over and particularly on the offensive side of the ball. You know, Coach Williams has been on those boys' tails, and you can ask Kruger. They still are, you know, right now, you know, making sure that we're not falling back. We're not, you know, relaxing on what we've accomplished, and we're going to make sure that we're working as hard right now as we ever have. Okay, so let's talk about this, or we're going to talk about this coming Thursday. But before we get into that, I want to talk about 3 shutouts in the last 4 games. Only 38 points surrendered by this defense in district play, 52 total because there were a couple of pick sixes. But only Denton Ryan and Keller Fossil Ridge hit the max of 14. That's an anaconda-style type of defensive approach. I don't think, again, going back to this, and long way to go before the story is written on this team, but that kind of performance in 10 games, that even kind of has to surprise you.
Yeah, for that. I mean, I knew we were going to be, you know, pretty good defensively. You know, hopefully we continue that. But, you know, several coaches that we have played multiple times through the years, you know, they tell me before the game, hey, this may be the best defense y'all have ever had. Now, I'm not going to anoint them that. You know,
right.
To be that, you got to go win a state championship at Aledo.
Right.
You can't say you're the best offense or you're the best defense or you're the best team and you didn't win a state championship. That's not going to be the case. So these guys got to go finish the season off and go win one before they can even be in that conversation.
I was going to say the 2013 team and the 2023 team can have their argument about which one was better, but the 2025 team has to wait its turn if it can do what everyone hopes it can do here in the next 6 weeks.
Yeah, in 2018 we had a pretty good defense as well.
Right.
You know, we've had some really good defenses in the past.
Okay, so as we look ahead to this Thursday against Saginaw, maybe a bit of a surprise you're seeing them and not Chisholm Trail. Rough Riders lost to the Rangers 27-17 in the season finale. But you were able to get the game on Thursday because I know when we talked about this last week, you knew you had something lined up with Chisholm Trail. Didn't know what you had with Saginaw, but obviously it got all worked out. So
yeah, I mean, we did, Coach DeWitt wouldn't return my phone calls, wouldn't respond to an email or a text message until Friday morning when he said that, hey, I'll call you after the game if we play y'all. You know, and then they didn't finish that game till almost 11:30.
That's what it looked like, yeah.
You know, I went to the first half of the game and then went home and I was in bed before that game was over. So, so I didn't talk to him until Saturday morning, and we worked things out and got the game set.
The fact, again, about playing on Thursday, if everything works the way we all anticipate it's going to work on Thursday, that extra day of preparation is so important in the playoffs, too. I would think that that's kind of the motivation because, and by the way, we're starting to see a lot of opening round playoff games played on Thursday. That's going to be a heavy docket this coming week.
Yeah, a lot of teams are doing that. I can't remember when Coach Buchanan started going that first round on a Thursday, but you know, one of the things it does is it gives your kids a weekend. You know, but we've got 5 more weeks after this, and it gives them a weekend, you know, of rest going into the second round. So, you know, I tried to do it, you know, as the head coach, you know, the last few years. We weren't able to do it last year, you know. But we're going to try to continue that, you know, going forward.
Yeah, and I think, too, just from the standpoint of, as you said, it opens up the weekend because I would imagine you can do your film session on Fridays and not have to do it Saturdays. So they would technically get Saturday off and then come back to work on Monday. Then.
Exactly. You know, we'll get our normal Saturday routine stuff on Friday morning. We'll bring them in a little bit earlier because they do have to go to school. But then, yeah, it gives them Saturday, and I've already got a couple of guys that are going to go on some recruiting visits on Saturday. So, but it gives those guys the opportunity to go do that. They've been invited to go to some colleges, and they're going to go visit those colleges and check them out.
Yeah, and it's a great opportunity. It's probably going to be, if it's the run that you all hope it's going to be able to put them in a position so that maybe the last time they get a chance to do it, because there's a lot of work ahead of them if we all hope this goes the way we think it does.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's continue our discussion about the Rough Riders. As we mentioned, Mike DeWitt, in his first year, he replaced Ken Peters, who retired. Again, the Rough Riders went 7-3. They went 6-2 in District 4-5A, 4th playoff seed from that district. Sound like they're a little bit beat up on them, but when you watched them on Friday night, what did you see?
Yeah, I mean, they've got some really good football players. You know, that was the thing that stood out to me the most, especially, you know, some of their defensive guys. Now, they got some young guys as well. They start 2 freshmen on offense. They got a new quarterback. I believe it's one of the maybe it's a coach's kid, or at least he has the same last name as one of the coaches. You know, and he throws the ball well, and that's one of the things that they do. They throw the ball more than anybody we've played so far this year. So
our secondary is going to be tested a little bit this week.
Yeah, and speaking of, that quarterback's name is Joshua Greek, and as you mentioned, he can sling it. 2,025 passing yards, 27 touchdown passes. When you watched him against Chisholm Trail, what are the challenges that he poses?
No, he's just poised in the pocket. He's had, he was getting some time. We're going to try to make sure that he's not as, comfortable in the pocket, try to get some pressure on him, and make him get rid of the ball because he likes throwing the ball down the field.
The one thing I noticed about their stats is that they're essentially 2-to-1 pass to run, about over 2,000 yards passing, just a little over 1,000 yards rushing. So they're going to have to rely on, airing it out to kind of stay with you guys if they can. That's what it suggests.
I mean that's what they do. They throw the football. If you watch them, start studying their video, they're going to throw the ball, a lot more than they run the football, so we got to make sure that we're doing a good job with that. And then also the screen game is a big thing. They throw more screens than anybody we've seen.
Okay. So there are two top receivers, and they got several that they throw it to because they've got about 6 or 7 guys with double-digit catches. But their two primary receivers that stood out to me are Derek Harris and Caden Stewart. They've combined for 1,200 yards, 16 touchdowns. What do you see from those two?
Yeah, those guys got some speed, so they can make some plays after they get the ball in their hands, and they can take it the distance if we're not where we're supposed to be.
Is their passing game one that's going to be just a lot of screens, a little out routes so that they can get some blocking downfield, yards after catch, or do they kind of mix it up so they're going to try and go vertical?
It's mixed up. They throw a lot of what I would consider, what we call 90 game, where it's a 3-step drop out of shotgun, trying to get the ball down the field. But then, like I said a minute ago, they've thrown more screens than anybody we've seen. So, it's going to be a mixture. They're going to throw screens. They're going to try to, stretch you vertically and throw the ball down the field, and then they'll mix in some run with it.
And I would think, too, just from a defensive standpoint, when you're the linebackers or if you're the defensive lineman coming, there's going to be that thing where you have to see where you're charging downfield and then you stop because you have to see because they might be setting up a screen. I'm sure that's been being drilled into your players' heads as we speak this week.
That's always something, especially the defensive line works. The defensive line, if that offensive lineman gives a pass set and then he doesn't even try to block you and then he takes off running, you better follow him. So it's something that's been harped on and worked on, already this week, and something that we always work on because you're constantly working on those things so that they don't surprise you.
Okay, so I'm knocking on wood because we brought this up last week, but this week you should be completely healthy. Kruger is back this week, and then I think everybody else is pretty much in good shape here. So you're about as good to go health-wise as you could possibly be for this run.
I mean, we got a couple of guys that are sick, but they should be back by Thursday. So health-wise, as long as we can keep that rolling, for the next 6 weeks, we're going to be in good shape.
All right. And then finally, Coach, as we talk about this, you've brought up some sub-varsity players. You can talk about a few if you want to. That's up to you. They could see the field if you're in a situation where you're blowing a game out. And I'm sure you guys look at that as a reward. But how do you and your staff, especially the sub-varsity coaches, evaluate who earns this opportunity?
We've got some guys, and my headset's cutting out, so I don't know if y'all can hear me or not. But we've got some guys that, have been on JV all year, and you say you brought them up, we bring them all up, and that was something that I had to have a talk with them today. Is some of them think, I'm on varsity now. I said, no, you're still a JV player. We just might have a chance to get you in a game. So we bring a lot of kids up, and give them the experience. That's what we want them to have is the experience of being on the sideline on a Friday night, playoff game. And then if we get a chance to get some of them in, we might. The Nolan Barker who had the pick six the other night, he's a guy that's played 3 varsity football games, so he's on the varsity roster. Guys that haven't been on the varsity, they're not going to be listed on the varsity roster. They'll still be listed as a squad member, but they might get in the game.
Sure, and I did not have Nolan Barker on my bingo card as defensive touchdown guys for you guys this year, and so. But a great moment too. What was fun about that is how that whole sideline erupted with joy when he's picked that thing off and ran it back the other way about 47 yards or whatever it was.
Yeah, I mean, they liked watching the young guy, have some success. That guy's going to be a big part of our football team in the next couple of years. So they were really excited about him and excited that he was able to make that play.
It's kind of like something with Coach Baker and Coach Ott when they are in a blowout game and they empty the bench and they bring out the guys who never get to play, and then those guys get on the court and they find a way to score. How the bench just kind of blows up that sort of thing. So, all right, Coach. Well, look, we look forward to seeing you guys on Thursday night, opening round of the playoffs against the Saginaw Rough Riders. Again, Hank FM will be the listening location for that with the pregame show at 6:30, and then the kickoff is at 7. Coach, thanks so much for the time.
Hey, no problem.
All right. And we want to remind you that this Aledo Coaches Show podcast is brought to you by H5 Sports Barn. H5 Sports Barn and Knife Physio and Performance can help unlock your athletic potential and elevate your game like the Aledo Bearcats. With expert sports physical therapy, tailored recovery plans, and top-notch sports performance training, H5 Sports Barn, proud supporters of the Aledo Bearcats. And then Hiley Mazda. Head to Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth today. Their new state-of-the-art facility is conveniently located just off of I-30, exit Las Vegas Trail, and experience top-notch service and hassle-free buying. Don't forget to ask about this month's special offers. Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth, family-owned and operated for over 30 years. Second segment of the 3-segment podcast continues right after this timeout. We're going to be joined by right guard Kruger Summers and linebacker Cole Cox. Stick around. Podcast continues after this timeout.
In the Briggs Freeman Sally Watkins group red zone, the pass is going to be caught for a touchdown. Unbelievable high pointed catch by Caden Finley in the end zone, and the Bearcats now have broken 50. That's just an undescribable great catch by Caden Finley.
Yeah, I don't know how you could describe anything better than what Caden Finley did right at the end of the first half of that game against Denton High last week. And by the way, Caden added 4 more touchdowns to his school record of now 46 touchdown grabs in his career at Aledo High School. That is now blowing the old record away of 40 that was set by JoJo Earl. We welcome you back to the Aledo Coaches Show podcast. I'm Kevin Lonnquist, coming to you from Parker County Brewing Company, about to start our second segment with the players here. But before we do that, let's give you a couple of Aledo notables. Number 1 Lady Cat volleyball team playing in the Class 5A Division I Region I Finals on Tuesday. They will be facing Birdville. It's a 6 o'clock start at the Arlington Athletic Center. This will be the third time that this team will be playing at that location. Lady Cats are trying to return to the state semifinals for the second consecutive year. They are now 40-3 after that exhausting but victorious 4-set victory over then number 5 Amarillo. That was last Friday up in Vernon. This is how great this match was. Aledo won it 26-24, 23-25, so they dropped the second set, and then won the last 2 to win the match 25-19, 25-23. Birdville is the new number 5 team in the 5A Division I poll, and they are 28-9. These two saw each other in the playoffs last year. Aledo won in 4. And one college football note to let you know about in terms of Aledo alums, former quarterback Braden Fowler Nicolosi is reportedly going into the transfer portal from Colorado State. Wasn't the year that he was looking for. On top of that, his head coach, Jay Norville, was dismissed last month. So we wish BFN the best in his search for a new opportunity. Now, pleased to be joined in our second segment by senior right guard Kruger Summers and junior linebacker Cole Cox. Thank you, gentlemen, for being with us.
Welcome. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right, so let's just talk about the season overall and what you guys have thought from the opener against Geyer to where you all did against Denton. And so, Cole, I'll start with you. Just the way that things have transpired, what have you seen has been like the greatest change for this team from start to where you are now?
I think it was just gaining our confidence. Like, we started off really hot, but we just kept the snowball rolling, and we just keep playing even better and better.
Okay, and then Kruger, what about for you?
I think we started practicing a lot harder, and just our whole mentality switched on offense. It went from just like trying to gain a first down and just going for a touchdown every time.
Okay, so let's just talk about it, and I've kind of worn out the subject of Denton Ryan, but I talk about that as that game of a line of kind of a change for you guys, just because even though you guys, this program obviously, its success speaks for itself, but every season does have its own story, and it seemed like the way that you guys rallied in that game, and I've asked all the other players who have played in their perspective, so I'm curious to get yours on this. The way you guys rallied to win that game, I wonder how that changed the mindset of this group. I'll start with you on this, Kruger. What did you think coming out of that?
I think that we found our players for the season. You know, Lincoln Tubbs, he got his starting spot, and our O-line finally came together and made something happen. Our receivers finally came together, and our whole offense was just clicking after that. And seeing them drop like flies in the middle of the game, that was cool to see.
And remember, we had all the offensive linemen as our offensive players of the game from that. And I can remember the comment talking about the fact that really toward the end of the second quarter is when you could feel that you all were starting to gain an advantage of that. And so is that did you see that as well? Because I know Peyton's talked about that. I know Amari's talked about that, that sort of thing.
Yes, sir. You know, that's probably one of the best D-lines that's not ours that we're going to see the whole season. So we were I wouldn't say nervous going into that, but we were really prepared. and just seeing us defeat them was a crazy thing to see.
And Cole, obviously a very explosive team. They've, you saw what happened last year, how it ended last year. There was some frustration there, and of course, the way you guys rallied, and defensively, the way you guys really locked down, because they only scored 1 touchdown against you guys. So I would think too that you guys took a lot of confidence away from a really well-respected program like that.
Yes, sir. What I loved about that game was we always answered the bell no matter what, and we didn't let them get going. We just played strong, great defense, and we're just better, we're stronger, faster. We played harder. That's what it means to be a Bearcat.
Okay, so Kruger, I know you're eager to get back out there. Missed the last couple of games, but I've asked all the offensive linemen about this. You kind of spoke to this a few moments ago, but what's been the key for this unit to really come together? Because this passing game looks completely different from the bye, starting with Richland, and just what's been the key for everything to just kind of gel like it has?
I think just our confidence. We really came together as a unit. We're having a great time at dinners. We're all friends now, and last year wasn't the same case. So this year we're all great. We're all great buddies, and we're just all trying to get state. Okay, and then as far as the way, it's kind of a mixed bag, too, just because of the fact that this running game, you don't have to rely on one guy. If it's not Brady, it could be Caden, or it's somebody else. It even could be Jeremiah, or it could be Rudy, that sort of thing. Just the balance in the running game. Even Lincoln can give you something like that. So when you have those kind of options in the running game, what does that do for an offensive line that you don't have to make sure that you don't have to rely on one guy or something like that to be your primary ball carrier? Gives us a lot of confidence. All we have to do is make a hole, and 5 guys can run through it. It's just a great thing.
All right, Cole, you're the youngest of the linebacker corps here. So, but evaluate your game personally from Geyer to where you are now. Of course, what's been the key for you? Just kind of give us your feeling about that as far as how you've grown at that outside spot.
Just gaining a lot of confidence. I didn't start off with a lot of confidence, but as the season progressed, I started to gain that confidence, and that's helped me improve my play as a player. And I've definitely learned a lot from Ryland and Chase. Those are like my 2 brothers, and they taught me so much about the game. And today in class, when I wasn't doing my work, I was watching their film, actually trying to study it.
Okay. I don't know if I can get that not recorded, but anyway, we'll just go ahead for that. But anyway, seriously though, was there a particular play or a quarter where you felt like your game changed, where you kind of said, how your confidence changed from one level to where it is now? Anything that you can remember?
Denton Ryan, I think it was the 4th quarter, and I was playing Will linebacker because we were in cats, and I see the running back coming at me, and I was like, I'm about to go stick him, and I brought it to him, and he didn't bring it back.
Okay. Now, you mentioned Ryland and Chase. The chemistry that you guys have really formed on there in this trio. You guys are going to be the top tacklers on this defense, which is what it's supposed to be. But just talk about that relationship that the 3 of you all have formed since really even going back to the offseason, knowing that you all were probably going to be the trio in the middle segment of the defense.
Yes, sir. Those were my lifting buddies. It was me, Chase, Ryland, and Caden Weaver. And we worked all offseason, and they helped me become the player that I am. They taught me that I got to work hard for everything, and that it's not just going to be given to me. I got to fight for it, and you just got to do what you got to do. And I really appreciate that from them.
I would imagine, too, just because, and obviously with Chase, because they're both seniors, but, Chase is a captain. So what is his leadership, being a mentor to you? I'm sure Ryland has been a mentor in some degree as well, but what's that been like, though, because those guys and how they've challenged you on that? And so, because sometimes you have to make a decision. If they're challenging you, they're saying, if you really want to be as good as you can be, you've got to really put in the effort to do that.
I see what Chase can do on the field and what he can do off the field, and when he tells me these types of things, I feel like I got to step up to the challenge, and because I really do want to be like him in a way, because he's a great player and a great guy. So if he tells me to do something, I'm going to do it.
Okay. Lots of explosiveness on both sides of the ball. Let's start offensively. Kruger, you saw the transformation from the bye. And so how does something like that go from one, I guess if you want to call extreme, to the other? Because, you guys were – it's crazy because here we are talking about a streak of 3 consecutive games where this offense has put up 70 points. And you heard me talk about it with Coach about the fact that in the first half, you guys have just put the pedal to the metal on this and haven't scored every time you've touched the football in the first half in the last 3 weeks except one time. That's crazy stuff. Does that even make your head spin thinking about that or even realizing what that happened? Yeah, and so, what is the passing game though, man? Because obviously that's a big change in how things have come about there and that sort of thing. Caden's been such a big leader for you guys there, but just the fact that all these other guys have stepped up too, what's that meant in terms of just the efficiency of the passing game?
We needed those receivers to come up. You know, Coach Lloyd's been making them practice super hard and staying on them, and that's really helped. And they know what they're doing now because they weren't very knowledgeable at the start of the season, and now they know exactly what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, that makes a big difference too. And then just with Lincoln, how have you seen him just kind of settle in and run the offense here? Because he's rattled off, I think, 266. I think it was 335 last week, about 297 against Azle the week before. How has he changed just from what you've watched him in the opener against Geyer to where he is now?
I think it's just his confidence in the pocket. You know, he's sitting down there. He's not nervous. He's not fleeing around. He's just sitting back there and launching it. He's doing great. Okay, Cole, let's talk about this defense overall. Can you explain what's going on? Because these numbers are really unprecedented stuff. Only 38 points allowed in district. Remember, 52 overall because of a couple of pick sixes, but only 38 points. 66 points allowed for the year. So that's 6.5 points a game through 10 games. 4 shutouts, including the last 2. 3 of the last 4. Only 10 points in the last 4 games. I don't even know how to describe something like that. I mean, can you talk about that? I mean, I realize that maybe the opponents are what you're going to be facing in the playoffs, but still, even to do that, though, is quite impressive. Can you speak to that?
Yes, sir. We just play like a unit because that's what we are. We're a family, and we're coached extremely well by our position coaches. I know mine, Brad McConey's taught me a lot. You better listen to him, too. Oh, I have no option. He makes me. We just got the best players at every position in the state, I think, right now. I mean, our defensive line, they're just elite. Our cornerbacks, elite. Our safeties are elite. Our linebackers are elite. We're a great defense, and hopefully we can prove in the playoffs that we are the best. Because I know that we have a lot of doubters right now. Okay, and as far as that's concerned, yeah, because they probably will say, well, look who they've beaten the last few weeks. So it's kind of like, all right, until you play so-and-so, it's always going to be that but kind of pushback that you guys get. So how do you handle that, though? I mean, because even though this program has won 12 state championships, there's always going to be naysayers that are going to say, yeah, but look who you've played and that sort of thing. And so when you come to those games that might define a season or something like that, like with Ryan, where you guys meet the challenge, I would imagine is it pretty easy to tune out the noise, or is it motivation, or how do you use it? I'll start with you on this, Kruger.
I feel like we always try to play every game to our hardest, and when we see an opponent like that, we just rise to the occasion. Never let anything get in the way, and we just play our hardest. Okay, and then what about for you, Cole?
Just practice. We practice hard, and that'll cancel out all the noise. And when it comes to game time, you just got to let it all go, and you just got to go hit somebody.
Okay, I got you on that. Okay, and that's been the case pretty much throughout the entire season. Okay, finally, before we let you guys go, playoff mindset. How does that shift from Denton to what's out there starting Thursday against Saginaw High? I know there's one more game to go at Tim Buchanan Stadium. You got another season to go at that stadium. Maybe a little bit more emotional for you, Kruger, but let's just talk about just getting ready for the playoffs. How does it change? I'll start with you on this, Cole.
It's kill everybody now. It's they die or we die. Someone's got to go home, and it damn sure ain't going to be us.
Okay, all right. And then what about for you, Kruger? And again, you can speak to it 2 ways. Obviously, the final push for you, and then maybe your last home game. They're more than likely your last, unless there's some weird flip of a coin and you guys wind up coming back there or something like that. But what's that going to mean to you on Thursday night?
I mean, I've played there for 4 years and seen all those people come out, the whole community. It's a wonderful thing to see. And I think just ending the senior year with a win for everyone, for the whole community, for all the juniors and underclassmen, it'll be a great thing for all of Aledo.
All right, sounds good, gentlemen. Thanks very much. Okay, to my far left is junior linebacker Cole Cox, and to my immediate left is senior right guard Kruger Summers. Folks, let's give it up for these 2 young men. And we want to remind you that this Aledo Coaches Show podcast is brought to you by H5 Sports Barn. H5 Sports Barn and Knife Physio and Performance can help unlock your athletic potential and elevate your game like the Aledo Bearcats. With expert sports physical therapy, tailored recovery plans, and top-notch sports performance training, H5 Sports Barn, proud supporters of the Aledo Bearcats. And by Hiley Mazda. Head to Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth today. Their new state-of-the-art facility is conveniently located just off of I-30. Exit Las Vegas Trail and experience top-notch service and hassle-free buying. Don't forget to ask about this month's special offers. Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth, family-owned and operated for over 30 years. Stick around. A third and special segment of the podcast coming up. We're going to be talking basketball with girls head coach Donny and boys new head boys basketball coach Drew Baker. Stick around, podcast. One more segment to go right after this timeout. And we welcome you back to the Aledo Coaches Show Podcast. Third and final segment here, a special third segment because the basketball seasons are getting underway. The girls' season just opened this past Friday, and Donny Ott's in a good mood, so that's always a good thing for me. They opened with a 55-24 victory over Eagle Mountain last Friday. They will play host to Cleburne on Tuesday. Brooke Dempsey with 17 points. Liz Griffin with 16 points to lead the way for them. And good news on Liz Griffin. She has given a verbal commitment to St. Mary's down in San Antonio. That's a Division II school, so congratulations to her. As for Coach Baker making his debut as Aledo's coach, he will make that debut next Tuesday night at home against the Trojans out of Euless Trinity. Gentlemen, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having us.
All right.
Thank you so much.
And welcome. This is going to be a new set. This is going to be something for you throughout the course of the basketball season, at least into January, sometime in late December, maybe all the way through January. So we're looking forward to having you with us, Coach.
I'm excited.
Okay. And then, Donny, obviously, welcome back for you, year number 2. So we'll start with you on this. Early assessment from the opener, first game, always going to be some things that you're going to say, I really like what we did here. And then there's going to be some points where you go, we need to be better here. So what's the assessment after the opener?
I was excited. Scouting Eagle Mountain, I wasn't sure how we would handle their two. They got 2 really good guards, very athletic. I thought we did a really good job of limiting one of them. The other one got off for about 16, but for us that was good because she's a heck of a player. So I felt good about defensively. We had them to 1 point for most of the first quarter. But we need to do a little bit better, clean up some things offensively, make some shots around the basket that we should have made. I think a little bit, first game jitters, probably missed some of those shots that we'd normally make. So, but overall, I'm very happy with the way the first game turned out.
All right, and of course, again, Cleburne tomorrow, and then you guys will get into tournament play here in the not-so-distant future. Drew, again, welcome here, and of course, you were at Mesquite as the number 1 varsity assistant, and so when this position came open, what attracted you to it?
It's a community that knows how to win. And I think that was one of the first things. And my wife and I had talked about, being an assistant on the 6A level for 3 years was a really great experience. That's a really tough district. Mm-hmm. And so it was a real great opportunity for me to sit back and kind of reevaluate some things. I'd been a head coach for 14 years prior to that. Mm-hmm. And, we got to a point where I was like, I'm ready to find that spot. Mm-hmm. And we wanted to find a community that we could raise our kids in and be long-term. That was a big part of the conversation is I'm looking for a long-term setup for my kids. I got a 4th grader. Mm-hmm. So our plan is to be here for a while. And we felt like Aledo was a community that would be a great place to put our kids in and grow some roots for them. But then also it's a community that knows how to win. Mm-hmm. And so both those things were very appealing.
Okay, and you mentioned, you kind of answered my follow-up question here. Been a head coach for 14 years, but some in Texas, some in Oklahoma. And I'm curious about this, is that, you talked about your experience for 3 years over at Mesquite. And once a head coach, then on the second seat on the bench, if you will, kind of feel like, when is the timing right to maybe take another shot at trying to be in the lead chair? What goes into that thinking, saying, I really want to give this another shot again? Because some guys, when they get out of a head coaching spot, they're fine with being a career assistant for the duration of their career. So for you, what was kind of the nudge to do it again?
I just think I had an opportunity. It's a network, Mm-hmm. A lot of times that's how it works. You get in where you know people and where you have connections and opportunities. And so Mesquite was an opportunity to jump into a 6A level, very competitive district. Mm-hmm. And so I decided to take a step back mm-hmm. and just kind of maybe challenge myself on a much higher level and really try to evaluate my philosophy mm-hmm. as a head coach and what I'd previously done for 14 years to kind of evaluate some things. So I knew I always wanted to go right back to being a head coach, but I wanted to take advantage of an opportunity that presented itself on the 6A level in that district. Duncanville, DeSoto, Lancaster. That's you're talking about. It kind of
speaks for itself.
It does speak for itself. Yeah. It does, and it helped me grow my network professionally, mm-hmm. And gave me an opportunity to really sit back and evaluate some things from the other chair. I was able to work with 2 really good guys. Brian Kurtz was the head coach at Mesquite for 16 years. Great guy. He was kind of on his way out the door. And then Coach Michael Bangs was at Richardson when they had Case and Wallace and they were making their run. I mean, who plays for the Thunder now? Mm-hmm. And so just getting to kind of evaluate my philosophy and just network with some of those guys. But when I took that, I always knew that I was going to try to jump back in somewhere. And to be honest, when Aledo opened up, I looked at my wife and I said, what do you think? And we kind of had a brief discussion over the last couple of days over it. And then, I mean, it was the only place that we put in because I wanted to be very picky about where I wanted to go. And again, the community around here and the fact that it knows how to win were the two appealing things that led us over here.
Okay, so let's talk about these teams. Donny, let's get your assessment of your group here. Got to the regional semifinals last year, 23-12 record, finished second in the district behind Brewer. You played a great semifinal game against Tascosa. I'll never forget the conversation that we had about that game, that you couldn't have been more excited about the way your kids played. Just a couple shots fell short. How different is this team going to be, and how is it going to be similar to what you had in your initial year last year?
There's a different dynamic with this team. We have a little bit more of an interchangeable pieces. We can play some kids in different spots. I think we can get up and down a little bit faster. Mm-hmm. And just, they understand things more now, in year two. We don't have any volleyball girls on our team right now. Last year we were waiting on Kinley and Ella, so
right.
that kind of got us off to a little slower start. I think there's just a different dynamic with that. As far as, what I feel like, moving forward, I think we've got a really good shot this year with our team. I think our district favors us pretty well. Mm-hmm. If we can continue to progress in regards to our development. And so I'm excited about it. The region's just tough. Region 1's tough. Tascosa brings everybody back. Plus, they get their best player who didn't play last year due to discipline reasons. Mm-hmm. So they're going to be loaded. But, we'll see them in our tournament. We're hosting a big 16-team tournament here the first week in December. So we've got some really good teams coming. Duncanville will be here, Amarillo, Tascosa, Canyon, Mansfield Legacy, Denton Browswell. So we're going to have some really heavy hitters here that first week in December. So I'm really looking forward to kind of seeing how we shape up in that.
Maybe we should fire the schedule maker for that, right?
Hey, listen, it's going to be hard to find some wins in that tournament. You always like to try to find a few wins in your own tournament. But, what I wanted to do when we brought this Moritz tournament back is I wanted to make sure it was an attractive tournament to where, people sought it out and wanted to be here. And that first week in December is a really good week for tournaments, and I just kind of put some feelers out, and it really took off. I didn't expect to have this kind of quality of teams here. Mm-hmm. We got Cedar Park coming; they're a state-ranked team. We got Katy Seven Lakes; they're big, signed to Houston. Houston Christian University. Houston Christian. Mm-hmm. They're coming. They've got one of the best junior guards in the state. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and we're looking forward to it for sure.
A couple things about your team, though. We mentioned in the opener against Eagle Mountain, Liz Griffin and Brooke Dempsey, 16, 17 points respectively. Are those the two players where you've seen the greatest growth? I'm sure there's others, but I can remember looking at Brooklyn's scoring numbers last year where she wasn't doing this. So the fact that she breaks out in the opener like this has to tell you something.
No, I really feel like there's been a development in a lot of the kids. T.R. Butler has developed. She is another one that has been playing fantastic right now. She just got in a little bit of foul trouble against Eagle Mountain, and unbeknownst to me, I thought she had 3 fouls. Mm-hmm. So I sat her a little bit longer than I should have. It was my fault. I didn't check the official scores book. She's one that has had a great summer and great spring. Kate Jackson's another one. Mm-hmm. So I'm really excited about the development of a lot of these kids over the spring and the summer. They took our end of the year meetings to heart. They went to work, and they came back better. Brenna Clock, mm-hmm. She stepped in as a starter now. She picked up 2 offers at Argyle, the shootout in Argyle, and at the Prelude scrimmage in Cedar Hill. And she's one that didn't even have any college ambitions, but she's picked up a couple offers already. So I'm just real pleased about seeing what it looks like. We're still relatively young. We've got 6 underclassmen on the varsity, and a lot of them play. So, looking forward to it.
How deep can you go on your bench, do you think?
We scrimmage 10 real competitively in practice. I feel comfortable right now, for sure, playing 8 to 9. I feel real comfortable with it. And I think in big games, last year we kind of tightened it up at 6 last year.
Right.
This year I feel like we can stretch it out a little bit to 7 or 8 and feel comfortable with it. So I'm excited about just seeing them learn and seeing them grow. We're able to put a few more things in. We've put a few more little baseline inbounds plays, and we put a few little quick hitters in already that I think are going to add to what we can do.
All right. Drew, for you, obviously you inherited a team that won the first district championship in school history. And it obviously too early in the opening round. They finished 27-7. Talk about your style. How does that fit with this group, or do you adjust to what you have? So kind of talk us through how that part works.
Again, that was kind of another appealing thing, is they came off with a lot of momentum last year.
Sure.
And returned a decent group. Unfortunately, we lost senior guard Carter Kinchin with an ACL, so he'll be out for looks like the majority of the season. We're hoping maybe, that he can come back towards the end of his senior year. We hit the ground running. We came over in May, so I feel like I've been here for already a year now, because we hit the ground running pretty good with this group.
For sure.
We started implementing some things pretty quick. Like we want to be a defensive-minded group. We want to be extremely aggressive defensively in the half court. We want to be really physical, kind of dictate the tempo of the game and the physicality of the game. And I've been very pleased. These guys have committed to that and really kind of bought into it. As far as just offensive philosophy, we got some kids that can score, but I think one of the biggest adjustments is just we want to see the ball move really well. We want to be hard to guard, and they've been very unselfish. They've been very quick to learn how we want to move the ball, what type of shots that we want to hunt. Shot selection is a really big deal for us. So I've been very pleased with the way our guys have responded.
As far as back to your defensive style, when you talk about at the half court, do you do a lot of man, or do you do a lot of trapping, or you'll switch in and out of that to see if you can generate off-ball turnovers, that sort of thing?
Yeah, majority of the time we're going to be a man. We're going to be a really tough-nosed, man-to-man team, and we really want to bother people. We'll always have something in our back pocket. At the end of the day, we want to keep the tempo in our favor. So if we got to come out in something else and give other people a wrinkle and a look, we'll have some things. But majority of what we do is going to be a man-to-man.
You inherit some size coming back, too, with Towns Van Huysen, too. And he really started to emerge toward the end of the season last year. So what do you see about him that could say, what's going to be the thing that we can do that he can take the next level?
Yeah, well, he's... Him, and I'll throw Dylan Pipkins out there.
Sure, 6'3", too.
Yeah.
And Towns is 6'8", by the way. I didn't mention that.
Towns is 6'8", Dylan's 6'3". Dylan's got a really good frame. And those two guys have really embraced some of the change, probably more than anybody. And that's when you got two seniors coming back, and I'll be the third coach in 3 years for those two guys.
Right.
And for them to embrace the change the way they have and really own some things, I couldn't ask for more. Both of those guys are going to be very instrumental. And the size helps.
Yeah.
And so, TABC was one of our first events together. Towns had 20 a game in 3 games. So his ability to score the ball for us and that size, 6'8", that's hard to find in a lot of places. So we're fortunate to have Towns.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me just talk to you a little bit, both of you, as we start to wind this down here, about just the early read of the District 5-5A race. Of course, Donny, you mentioned the fact that you feel like you guys might be the favorite in this district. Brewer was the favorite last year, won the district championship. But how does it seem like it's going to break down? Because it's, you two played really good games last year. And so how does this district shake out to you as far as the way things are going to, what is anticipated to how things might look once we get going late December and then into January?
Yeah, Brewer lost their top 2. They both went to college to play, Texas women's, and then the other one went to UT El Paso, I believe. So they had 2 really dynamic players that were hard to guard. We watched them in the prelude scrimmage. They just look like they're young and they're learning. They got a new coach. Foster Ridge has got one of their best players back. Now they graduated their go-to, their point guard. She's playing at UTSA. So that's a huge drop for them. And our sub-varsities did really good. Our JV and freshmen both won the district and went undefeated. So I feel like, we have things coming, where as opposed to the other teams in our district didn't seem like they had much coming behind what they already have. So I feel like that coupled in with our growth, I hope that bodes well for us in district. Our girls understand that they were picked by TABC to win the district, so they understand there's going to be a target on their back, and we don't expect it to be easy, and we are challenging ourselves in preseason. I mean, we're going to the McDonald's Texas Invitational, which is a huge one. We're going to the Sandra Meadows in Duncanville. Mm-hmm. So, we're playing some really elite 6A competition in the preseason to where we want to make sure that when we get to district, we're ready for what comes and we're ready to make another good playoff run.
Yeah, that Texas McDonald's is down in Pasadena, and that's going to be Thanksgiving week, or I should say the week before Thanksgiving. And so if you want to get some real, if you want to really toughen yourselves, I would imagine that would be one of those.
It's an invite only, and it's a monster of a tournament. There's 32 girls teams down there. We opened up with Conference Judson. They only lost 4 games last year in 6A and went to the regional finals. So, we're in Division I, which is the top bracket there, and we have A-Leaf Taylor, our second game, and then we play Cy Springs, the third game. So we've got 3 really hard pool games. So I'm just excited about having the opportunity just to even be invited there. Says a lot about the step that we took from years to this one. So I'm really excited about having that opportunity. And then, of course, the Sandra Meadows in Duncanville. I mean, this is year 76 for that tournament, so that'll be another good one for us.
Crazy that it's been around that long. It's been, and of course for you, Drew, obviously you had to do some intense studying here. You kind of had a binge study on this district because last year Aledo was in that race with Chisholm Trail, and Brewer won the district, of course. And so just learning what you know of the district, what's it going to be like, and what are you anticipating this year once we get going in district play in late December or pretty much early January too?
Yeah, I mean, I think the district race is probably those same teams, those top teams. Saginaw's got a new coach, so, Saginaw's usually got some good athletes, some good basketball players, so it'll just be how quickly they adjust to a new coach, a new system, and how well they mesh.
Mm-hmm. But you can trade war stories with him, too, about that.
We could trade war stories. He was at Waxahachie, so he and I ran into each other a little bit the last couple of years. But, Brewer's always going to be a really good game. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a lot of people talk about what that night looks like, and people packing the gym. So, I mean, I'm excited about it. I think for us, our focus right now is more us, our habits, trying to learn to do some things to get us to another level, to take another step. And we've talked a little bit about, it's no surprise. People know who you are now. You won the district last year. There's a little bit of chip on people's shoulders, like they're coming back for a little bit of revenge. So we were a little limited on changing the schedule too much. We did get in the Coppell tournament to jump in with some 6A schools, some bigger schools to challenge us preseason. And then this summer, this spring and fall, we did a lot of shootouts like TABC and things. And there's a couple big ones that we went to. We were able to go to Denton. We were invited to that one. We played Denton Geyer, where they got the 3-star kid, and we ended up beating them. We went to Cedar Hill, beat Cedar Hill. So we've tried to kind of upgrade our competition in fall shootouts and in the Coppell tournament to prepare us for that. I mean, we want to be at the top of the district, and I think our guys are pretty hungry that they don't want to repeat last year. Mm-hmm. They want to go beyond that, and I think that's really good that we got guys that think that way and are motivated. It's not just about winning district, but they want to go further. They want more this year.
For sure.
So we're excited about that.
Okay, and then finally for you two gentlemen, preparing likely for the move up to 6A. Obviously, you guys have been well aware of this. Donny, you were probably well aware of this when you took the job last year, and obviously, Drew, you knew this when you were coming in this spring. You both probably have been through this, or at least know what it's like, and so how have you guys kind of started preparing for that transition for 26-27? I'll start with you on this, Donny.
When I took the job, I was aware this would happen, and I kind of embraced that from the beginning. That's why I think we really try to strategically play our preseasons with a lot of those 6A schools and stuff, so that when we get to that moment, it's not going to be overwhelming. But it just depends on what the state decides to do. If we're going to go east, if we're going to go here and stay northwest a little bit.
Right.
I just really don't know what it's going to look like. I have some thoughts and some ideas, but either way, I feel like we'll be prepared for it just based upon what we've done with our schedule, our tournament. I made that really a 6A loaded tournament so that I could, get our kids ready for that and for next year. So, And, like I said, at that point, we'll have a lot of 3 or 4 year lettermen on our team. So I feel like maturity-wise, we'll be able to handle that and step up.
Okay, and then Drew, obviously, we just talked about this. You lived it, obviously, at Mesquite, so you kind of understand that. So for you, how do you start looking at something like this?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the same that Donny just spoke on. I mean, your schedule has a lot to do with it. Preparing to see that level and play on that level. I mean, exposing your kids to that. You are who you associate with, and I think Coach Jones was on here earlier. They start with Denton, Geyer, and Lancaster. I mean, they're well prepared. They've seen high level football, so when they get into 6A, like they've kind of already lived that and seen that, experienced that, and it's not a complete surprise. And I think that's kind of where we've got to go with the basketball programs, is we've got to upgrade our schedule a little bit, expose our guys to a little bit higher level basketball. And I think one of the things for me is just if we can start getting our younger guys to see that as well, getting really involved with our middle school kids, our freshman kids, and starting to expose them to, this is what the speed looks like, this is what the physicality looks like. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's going to be what the state decides on which direction we go. We've just got to be prepared for that level, regardless of which direction.
Should be a lot of fun, and we're looking forward to, as this season gets underway for you guys. Of course, Donny, your team's already into its season, and Drew, your season starts next week. So good luck to you all. And again, we'll have you guys back moving forward for the balance of your seasons, either late December, but for sure January once we come back from the Christmas break. Gentlemen, thank you for being with us here.
Appreciate it, Kevin. Thank you so much for having us.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. And we want to remind you that the Bearcats will open up the playoffs this coming Thursday night at a 7 o'clock kickoff against the Saginaw Rough Riders, Class 5A Division I Region I opening round playoff game at Tim Buchanan Stadium. 92.1 Hank FM has all the coverage for you with the pregame show at 6:30, and then again the kickoff is at 7 o'clock. For my engineer, Zach Holmes, and the rest of the Hank FM staff, thanks for being with us here at Parker County Brewing Company. We're back next Monday. We'll talk about what we expect will be an opening playoff win, and then playing somewhere out west in the area round next week. Have a great week. I'm Kevin Lonnquist. So long for the Aledo Coaches Show podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Aledo Coaches Show podcast, brought to you by H5 Sports Barn in Aledo and Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth. With the voice of the Bearcats, Kevin Lonnquist. Please like and subscribe to this podcast and tell a friend. You're also welcome to join us every Monday night at 7 from Parker County Brewing Company in Willow Park. It's the Aledo Coaches Show podcast, a presentation of Real Country 92.1, Hank FM, and NTXVarsitySports.com.